Hi guys, so welcome to episode 1 of All About That Reef. My name is Aindri.
And my name is Mahak. And we thought it'd be really useful to give you guys some context as to who we are and what is it that we do. So I think we can dive right in.
Yeah.
Aindri, ever since I've known you, even back in school, you've always been really enthusiastic about the ocean. So is there a particular experience or a memory that connected you to the ocean that you can tell us about?
So there were like a few encounters and experiences, and as you know, I used to like swim and play water polo in school, and I think that's what gave me like the confidence to like the water and like be more confident in the ocean. But there was this like one particular like experience that I still remember when I was like 17. And we went on this like family trip, and we went to Pigeon Island, and we were snorkeling, and the snorkel guide, the guide that was taking us, he, after we finished like the snorkeling tour, he was like, you're really like confident in the water. So we had already snorkeled in the main area, you know, where like you go inside the park and then there's like a reef. And he was like, do you want to go to the other side where there are like these black tip sharks? And I was like, yeah, I mean, that sounds really interesting. And then he's like, okay, fine, like let's go on to that side, but just be calm and all of that. And I was like, yeah, okay. And after we dived on that side, he was like, whoa, you're like really confident in the water. Maybe you should like really pursue like this thing called diving. And I was like, whoa, what's that? So he was like, this certification where you need just 4 days and you can like go up to about 18 meters, and I was hooked, and I was like, okay, I really want to like get my diving license. And then literally like a few months later, I like looked into it, and yeah, went to Beruala and got my diving license. And it was definitely like, I think that was like the start of it, because I just wanted to explore like the depths of the sea and see more things and understand how it works and like study it after that. But yeah, I think that was like the main one.
Yeah, that's really cool.
Yeah, but like about you as well, I feel like you got into marine biology like during your undergrad. I think you were mentioning.
Yeah, so for me, I don't think I've ever considered studying marine biology. Like, it was never something that was on my radar. I went into my undergrad wanting to do biomedical research, and actually for the first 2 years I was doing research, and like I always thought, you know, I was going to cure cancer or win the Nobel Prize or something like that. But 2 years into my undergrad, I broke my hand, and I wasn't able to, like, you know, pipette or use the lab equipment in like the precision way that you need for genetic research, at least for cancer genetic research. So I was a little lost as to what I wanted to do, and then I had to meet with a bunch of professors and explore the different research to find out what I want to do for my undergrad thesis. And one of the professors, he was just really cool. He kind of walked around barefoot, and he was like covered in tats, and then when I spoke to him, he was telling me about like how his lab is so much fun, that they go stand up paddleboarding, and yeah, he really did, and how he'd like they go stand up paddleboarding and you get to like dive and things like that. And it just seemed like really cool and something that I wanted to explore. So I had a conversation with him, and he was like, yeah, you can join the lab, but you need to choose a project that is of interest to you. So I had to speak to all the different people that worked in his lab, and everyone was working on like fish and fish biology. And then there was one postdoc, he said he was working on mangroves. And at that moment, I don't think I even really knew what a mangrove was. But I was like, mangroves, we have that in Sri Lanka. That's something I can do. And I signed up for that project. And then
Cool.
I just decided to do it for my undergrad. And I think that like doing research in mangroves in Sri Lanka really just opened up my eyes to like how incredible these ecosystems are. And also
And the importance of it.
And the importance of it, especially in a place like Sri Lanka, where you know, we were the first country in the world to legally protect its mangroves. But yeah, doing research into it really opened my eyes, and I also realized that doing marine biology didn't have to mean like diving in the ocean or like swimming, or like, you know, like it didn't have to be like saving the whales and the turtles. There were other aspects to it that you could explore.
For sure, yeah.
So that's kind of what got me started into marine biology at that point.
And you then continue to do your master's, and I think your research was at like Sangani Reef.
Yeah.
Tell us a bit about that.
So after I finished my undergrad, I came back to Sri Lanka, and it was when the economic crisis happened. So, and I was fortunate enough to get an Erasmus Mundus scholarship to study abroad. So I pursued something called the International Masters in Marine Biological Resources, which was a really cool program. It's IMBRC for short. How the program worked is it happened in Europe, and every semester was at a different university. So it was in a different city or different country. So I really got to travel Europe while studying, which is like a dream come true. And it allowed me the opportunity to do research, one as a sort of professional practice or like an internship, and then finally as for my thesis. And I always knew I wanted to work in Sri Lanka just because of all the important work that needs to be done. So it didn't make sense for me to do my research anywhere else. So I decided to do my research in Sri Lanka. I reached out to Nishan from Blue Resources Trust, and he agreed to supervise my project. So I flew back down, and for 6 months I did my thesis in Sangani, where we took small devices called BRUVs, which had a sort of camera, a GoPro attached to it, and it had a bait arm at the end of it. And what we would do is we would deploy these devices down into the ocean, and the GoPro would record all the fish that swam past it and that were attracted by the bait. And my job was to count these fish and which species of fish count past, to understand what the different reef habitats in Sangani, which fish assemblages they provided refuge to.
Fun.
Yeah. I think we've spoken a lot about me. Aindri, you were talking about how you went snorkeling, and that was one of the first experiences you had, and that led you to doing your diving license. And now you're one of Sri Lanka's first female dive masters in a really short time span, if I may add. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey from when you got your license to when you became a dive master?
So it's been 10 years since I've actually started diving, and last year I don't know, I just really thought, why not get my dive master license? And at first my mom was like, why are you even getting it, like what's the purpose of it? And in my head it was just the thought that, like, I mean, I could go to like all these like really cool countries and be a dive master, and I mean explore those reefs as well. But then after I did it, I realized how important of a license it is, because you're taking people who have never seen the ocean. So as a dive master, what I can do is I can do like refresher courses and take certified divers out diving, like do like dive guides kind of thing, guide diving tours or whatever you call it. And I can do discovery dives. So discovery dives is where we like you dive as well, so you, I think, have a bit of an idea as well.
But I think you can explain for those that are listening.
I will. So basically a discovery dive is where we take you to about 6 meters. We explain like the basics of diving and take you to about 6 meters, and you get to see a glimpse of what an actual diver would see, and a certified diver would see per se. So yeah, and that is something really important, and I think when you keep doing it, and when you talk to the person you've like just done a discovery dive with, they're just mind blown. They're just like, I can't believe you see this every day, and like this is your job, and this is the kind of like marine life we have in this country, and like no one even knows how much of like shipwrecks we have around the country. So yeah, I think that now after I've got my license, I realize how important it is and how useful it is. And yeah, it's a really cool feeling to like teach someone to dive and let them see these like really cool things underwater.
Is there a specific marine creature or experience that you've had that really wowed you as well, outside of when you did diving in Pigeon Island and saw the sharks for the first time?
That's a hard one because there's a lot, but I would say swimming with manta rays. And also,
So casually swimming with manta rays.
oh, like,
Hey guys, sorry to interrupt this episode.
but shout out to Pass It On for sponsoring this episode.
And now we're back.
Swimming with whale sharks, and it's just like the encounter. Like, you expect nothing, and then you see like these like amazing creatures go past you, and you're just mind blown. I think it's really important that you go with expecting very little when you're diving, and then you see like unimaginable things. That's like the best part about diving.
And right now, I think you do a lot of work with kids where you teach them about the ocean and like how important it is and like why it's important to protect them. So, can you tell us a little bit about why you do this and why you think that's important?
Yeah, so I think they're the next generation, and I think them understanding what the ocean is like and what kind of destruction we've already done to it and ways that they can protect it right now is important for them, not only as a youngster, but like as a child, but also when they grow old, how they can change their practices and to live like a sustainable life. As much as I say to live a sustainable life, it is quite hard to live sustainably, but living a conscious life is also
It's important and like what each person can do, right?
That's all that matters, I think. And kids these days are very like, I feel like they're very enthusiastic and like love the ocean, regardless of whether they've like swum in the ocean or not, or like even seen like the reef or like snorkel. They've really like changed their mindsets and really love the ocean, which is really important, I feel. But yeah, I think that's why I really go towards like teaching kids, like find it important that I should teach kids. But also I was going to ask you about the work that you are currently doing. You work at Lanka Environment Fund.
Yeah. So right now I work as a marine programs officer at Lanka Environment Fund, and I think it's so what my work involves is at Lanka Environment Fund we call ourselves conservation administrators, which means that we are not actually the people that are implementing the program, but we fall under another organization called Conservation Collective, which is sort of an umbrella organization. And what we do is we fundraise and we fill in the role that Sri Lanka the gap that Sri Lanka has for big conservation partners. Like we don't have the WWF or any of the big partners. So what we do is we bring in international funding and resources, and we connect them with smaller grassroots organizations and help them be able to implement the work that they are doing. So this takes on many forms. Sometimes it's bringing in funding, sometimes it's seeing whether there is a professional that we can bring in to advise the people on the projects. It's helping them with monitoring and evaluation. It's auditing a project if it needs to be. So we do play many different roles. But I'm really enjoying this job, and I think it's really cool because it really, as an early career professional, it really allows me to connect with some international organizations as well as local grassroots organizations and really understand the conservation space in Sri Lanka. And also being able to work on projects, I get to see different parts of Sri Lanka, see different ecosystems, understand their importance, and I'm not tied down to a specific area or a specific sort of species. So it really allows me to grow.
Diversify.
Allows me to like grow and understand and develop myself as a conservationist in the country.
Why would you say the most fun thing about your job?
I have a really great team that I work with, and we get along really well. So sometimes working with them doesn't even feel like work. And I love the fact that we get to go on field work a lot, which means, most of my job, unlike yours, unfortunately, is at a laptop and a table.
It could be fortunate as well at some point.
Yeah, but most of my work takes place at a laptop and a table, so it's always fun when we get to take a break from that and go and do field work. And a lot of the times, the field work involves talking to people that live in the community, getting some understanding as to what their daily life looks like, what their needs and what what their perspectives on the environment looks like, because at the end of the day, like, it's easy for us to say what needs to be done, but they're the people that are living alongside protected areas or specific environments, and their voices should matter as well. So it's really cool to be able to go speak to them, understand what their perspectives are, but also, like, see the ecosystem, see the work being done, talk to the people that are doing the work, and really get a feel for things. That's always fun. And it's also always, it's nice because it's usually a break away from Colombo, like all of us are together. So it's really a fun part of the job.
Are you still working with mangroves, or?
A lot of my work does surround mangroves. It's not the only ecosystem we work with. We do work with seagrasses as well as coral reefs. I do mostly focus more on ecosystems as opposed to individual species. But yeah, mangroves is kind of where my heart is. Yeah. So I do try to work mostly in mangroves and in mangrove restoration and conservation, which is kind of great for me because it's something that is so important in Sri Lanka. Definitely. And we have recognized it at somewhat of a level, so there is that kind of push for it.
Cool.
Shall we do maybe a quick round of question and answers, just so that people get to know us a little bit outside of what we do?
Let's do it.
Yeah, let me do
it. Do you want to ask a question first?
Okay, first question. Plastic or overfishing, what do you think is the bigger problem?
That's a hard one. I would say plastic.
I would say overfishing.
Okay.
Do you want to explain a little bit why you said plastic?
Because I feel like it's a never-ending problem, and when it comes to overfishing, I mean, you can change people's mindsets in two ways. Like from the fisherman's perspective, I mean, there's no right or wrong answer here, so I can't really I'm not downgrading your answer. But there are two ways to it. I mean, you can speak to the fishermen and kind of change the way that they fish and see if there are sustainable ways of fishing. And then you can also change the mindset of the consumer. But when it comes to plastic, I mean, it's the same thing. But yeah, okay, why overfishing?
I think for me, it's just the fact that I think people don't really realize how much it is that we have fished from the oceans, and it's something that I personally only realized when I started studying marine biology. And like, there are a few concepts in fisheries that you learn. Like, one is like where we see the shifting baselines theory, which is basically the idea that every generation doesn't have an understanding of what came before them. So with each generation, the baseline of what's normal shifts, right?
Yeah.
And the fish that we eat today, no matter how like big or like giant it would seem, is so much smaller to what our ancestors were fishing in the past. So really, I think we don't have a proper enough understanding of what overfishing actually looks like, and also we don't know how many fish are in the water. So how do you really know if you've overfished it? But we do see that even though fishing efforts, fishing technology has like progressed so far, the catch per unit effort is still declining. So that really is somewhat alarming for me. And
but it's the same with plastic.
Yeah.
I mean,
also
so much of overconsumption.
Yeah. Obviously, I mean, I think plastic is also a big problem. Don't get me wrong. To me, I think overfishing just stands out. Also, there was something we learned in one of the courses I was doing, is the fact that the ships that were used for like the world wars have actually are the ships that are being repurposed and now used for fishing. So like, if you think about it in that sense, we're literally going at war with the fish. And like, when you think of some of the practices they use, such as like bottom trawling, you're literally dragging and destroying entire ecosystems, like the entire sea floor, which is just a level of impact that is incredibly amazing to me. Like, sad, but still amazing.
Okay. I'm gonna ask you one. Favorite thing about the ocean?
That wasn't in the question list. Actually, I do have an answer. I think for me, it's the fact that how vast the ocean is. Like, you really can't think about it, and like, it's so deep, and like, and it hosts so much diversity that you like a human brain can't even conceive it. So it's like, it's pretty cool. What about you?
I think how you need to give it so much of respect, and also the fact that it will humble you at some point in life, and the fact that it has that much of power.
Yeah. That's a good one. Yeah. How about your favorite marine creature?
I hate this question. I mean, I like all of them for who they are, you know, but I would say the vaquita, because it's an real, like literally an endangered species, and there's only 10 of them right now in the world, and how important it is to
And
protect
they're so
them.
cute.
Yeah, they're cute.
Yeah. I think mine would be like cephalopods, like octopus and squid.
Smart
And
animals.
they're just really cool when you realize that they're mollusks, which is kind of at the first few most evolved, like it evolved so much earlier, so it's not as usually considered as developed as humans or mammals, but they're like so incredibly smart. And also I did my research for my internship on deep sea octopus, and I had the chance to, you know, like sort of see its eyeballs up close and like dissect it. Obviously, we didn't catch these octopus. They were bycatch from when fishers were using them that we were given as samples, and it was just really cool to understand how they work and the sort of complexity with which they have evolved and functioned, and like it's not something you really see on land, I think. So that level of sort of complexity. So it's a really cool animal species.
Cool. Yeah, I even read this like book about octopus and how like their brain works, and how they camouflage, and like
I mean each tentacle of the octopus kind of has its own nervous system, so it's considered to have 9
cool?
brains. Yeah,
I find that really cool.
And they're really pretty too.
Yeah, true.
Next one.
I think this is the last question, and it's similar to, what's your favorite underwater area in Sri Lanka?
I mean, I think I've got to say Kayankari. Not because I got the chance to research there, but because I think it's a little bit more remote and like so peaceful, and like it's kind of a shallow area that's like super clear. So even from like the boat, you can see the reefs, and like fortunately, it's pretty pristine compared to some of the other areas we have in Sri Lanka. So it's super, super gorgeous and just so peaceful that. Yeah. What about you?
I would say Pigeon Island, also because, I mean, as much as it's a really popular hotspot place, but also the fact that it constantly, I mean, goes through so much of destruction, and like throughout all the El Nino phenomenons that happen, it still revives. And the fact that the coral species there have that kind of like ability to do that, and the fact that they can adapt to that kind of like ocean temperatures really like, baffles me.
Yeah. Do you want to explain what an El Nino is?
Yes.
For the people that are listening.
So actually we went through the 4th mass bleaching event, I think.
Yeah.
Like literally a few months back. And it was a worldwide thing. So basically it's when the ocean temperatures heat up and corals start bleaching. I mean, you can add to this as well if you want to.
So what's important about the El Nino is it's like a natural increase in water temperatures. It is surprisingly not one of the things that are human induced, so they're not anthropogenic. And it's usually paired with what's called the La Nina. So it's oscillations in water temperature and weather patterns. So what's followed by like a heating event, a mass heating event, you would have a mass cooling event. And actually I was in Pigeon Island, I think in April, and then I went back sometime around July, August, and in April the corals were so pretty, so colorful. And then when I went back in July, it was almost completely gone, and it was really sad to see.
I hope it revives from this event, but yeah, we'll see.
But yeah, I think that's a little bit of a bleak note to end on. So thank you for listening to us. We hope we didn't ramble too much.
Yeah. And yeah, we have some interesting talks coming up with some interesting people and marine experts in Sri Lanka. So stay tuned for episode 2. This podcast is a Creator Cast production.